Evelyn Vale stood frozen beneath the gilded archway of the Romano Foundation ballroom, champagne glass trembling in her hand as her husband's voice cut through the classical music like a blade through silk. She's useful, but she'll never be my real wife. The words didn't just hurt. They erased her. 2 years of marriage. 2 years of loving a man who apparently saw her as nothing more than a strategic acquisition. Manhattan's skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind Dante Moretti as he spoke to his investors, completely unaware his wife stood 15 feet away, dying inside her designer gown. If you've ever loved someone who couldn't love you back, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The gala had started like every other high-profile event Evelyn had attended as Dante Moretti's wife. Cameras flashing, old money mingling with new power. The kind of evening where everyone smiled with their mouths but watched each other with predator eyes. She'd worn the dress Dante's people had selected. Midnight blue silk that cost more than most people's cars. Diamonds at her throat that felt like a collar. Hair swept up in that effortless way that actually took 45 minutes and 3 different products. The perfect Mafia wife. Except she wasn't. Not really. And tonight, she'd finally heard him confirm it. Evelyn set the champagne glass down on a passing server's tray, her hands shaking so badly she was afraid she'd drop it. The server didn't even glance at her. Nobody did. That was the strange curse of being Dante Moretti's wife. Everyone knew who she was, but nobody actually saw her. She moved through this crowd mechanically, smiling when required, nodding at the appropriate moments. A string quartet played something classical and expensive sounding near the far windows. Waiters circulated with tiny portions of food that cost a fortune but wouldn't fill a child. The Romano Foundation's logo, a pretentious family crest that probably cost $50,000 to design, decorated everything from the programs to the ice sculptures. "Evelyn, darling," she turned. Margaret Chen, wife of one of Dante's business associates, approached with that particular smile wealthy women wore when they wanted gossip. "Margaret, lovely to see you. That dress is stunning. Is it the Marchetti piece from Milan Fashion Week?" "I'm not sure. Dante's stylist selected it." Margaret's smile sharpened slightly. "Of course. How wonderful to have someone handle those tedious decisions for you." The implication hung in the air between them. "You don't even pick your own clothes." "If you'll excuse me," Evelyn said quietly. "I need some air." She didn't wait for a response. She just walked, heels clicking against marble, past clusters of Manhattan's elite discussing mergers and marriages with the same cold calculation. Through the main ballroom, down a hallway lined with mediocre modern art that probably cost more than a house. The terrace was empty. Thank God. Evelyn stepped outside into October air that bit through her thin dress immediately. The city sprawled below, all lights and noise and endless motion. From up here, it looked almost beautiful, like something that could be controlled. Understood. She gripped the stone railing and tried to remember how to breathe. She's useful, but she'll never be my real wife. The words kept replaying, each repetition carving deeper. What did that even mean? They were married, legally, publicly. She wore his ring. She lived in his penthouse. She attended his events and smiled for his cameras and learned which associates to trust and which to fear. What part of that wasn't real? Except she knew. Of course she knew. The part where he loved her. That had never been real at all. "You'll freeze out here." Evelyn's entire body went rigid. She didn't turn around. Couldn't. Dante's footsteps were soft against the terrace stone. Then his suit jacket settled around her shoulders, heavy and warm and smelling like him. Expensive cologne and cigarette smoke he pretended he'd quit. "I'm fine," she managed. "You left in the middle of Senator Zhao's speech." People noticed. I needed air. Silence. She could feel him standing behind her, close but not touching. That was their marriage in a single gesture, proximity without intimacy. Did something happen? His voice was careful, controlled, the way it always was. "Yes, I heard you. I heard what I really am to you." "No, nothing happened." "Evelyn, I said I'm fine, Dante." She turned to face him, finally, and that was a mistake. Because even now, even after everything, looking at him hurt. He was objectively beautiful in that dangerous way that made people nervous. Dark hair always perfectly styled, sharp features that photographs loved and enemies feared, slate gray eyes that could read a room in seconds, but apparently couldn't see his own wife breaking apart. He studied her face with that same analytical intensity he used on everyone, looking for lies, for weaknesses, for leverage. "You're upset," he said. "I'm cold." "That's not... I'd like to go home. Please." Something flickered across his expression, too fast to name. Then it was gone, replaced by that smooth mask he wore like a second skin. "We need to stay another hour minimum. Mayor's giving a speech, and I promised Romano FaceTime with the commissioner." Of course. The appearance mattered. The political connections mattered. Everything mattered except what she was feeling right now. "Then I'll wait in the car." "Evelyn, I'll wait in the car, Dante." She shrugged out of his jacket and handed it back, then walked past him without waiting for permission or protest. Back through the hallway, back through the ballroom where people were starting to notice the Mafia boss's wife leaving early and alone. Let them notice. Let them talk. She was so tired of pretending. The ride home was silent. Carlo, their driver, knew better than to make small talk. He just drove while Evelyn stared out the window at Manhattan sliding past in streaks of light and shadow. The penthouse felt cavernous when she stepped inside, all marble and modern furniture and carefully curated art. Like a magazine spread. Like a museum. Like anything except a home. She kicked off the heels and left them by the door. Unzipped the dress and let it pool on the bedroom floor. Scrubbed off the makeup that made her look like someone else. When she finally caught sight of herself in the mirror, hair down, face bare, wearing one of Dante's old shirts, she barely recognized the woman staring back. When had that happened? When had she become this ghost? Evelyn climbed into their massive bed, her side always her side, even when Dante was gone for days, and pulled the covers up to her chin. The city glowed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She never closed the curtains anymore. What was the point? Dante rarely came to bed before 3 in the morning anyway. She closed her eyes and tried not to think about the gala, about his voice, about the casual way he'd dismissed 2 years of her life as useful, but not real. Tried and failed. Somewhere around 2 in the morning, she heard the penthouse door open. Dante's footsteps, familiar and measured. Water running in the kitchen, ice clinking in a glass. His nightly routine, whiskey, one cigarette on the balcony he thought she didn't know about, then paperwork until dawn. The bedroom door opened quietly. She kept her breathing even, pretending to sleep. She felt him pause in the doorway, felt his gaze on her. Then the door closed again, and his footsteps retreated toward his study. Evelyn opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling until dawn. The next morning started the same way every morning had for 2 years. Coffee brewing automatically at 6. News playing softly from the kitchen. Sunlight cutting through the penthouse in geometric patterns. Evelyn didn't get up. Usually she was awake first. Usually she made breakfast. Not because Dante expected it, but because it gave her something to do. Some illusion of purpose. But today she just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling nothing and everything simultaneously. Around 7, she heard Dante moving through the apartment. Shower running, closet doors opening and closing, the efficient sounds of a man preparing for another day of controlling an empire built on violence and money. The bedroom door opened. "You're still in bed?" He sounded surprised. "I'm tired." "Are you ill?" "No." Silence. She didn't look at him, didn't move, just kept staring at that water stain on the ceiling she'd noticed 6 months ago and he'd never bothered to fix. "Evelyn, you should go. You have that meeting with the construction union at 8. "That's not until 9. "Then you have time for coffee." Another pause. Longer this time. She could feel him trying to solve her like a puzzle, figure out what had shifted, what had changed. Good luck, she thought bitterly. I don't even know anymore. Eventually, he left. The penthouse door closed with its usual expensive whisper, and Evelyn was alone again in their museum of a home, wondering how her life had become this echo chamber of silence and expensive things. She finally got up around 10, made coffee, stared at her reflection in the chrome coffee maker, and didn't recognize the woman looking back. Her phone buzzed. Maria, her only real friend in this world of calculated relationships and strategic alliances. Brunch? I'm dying to hear about the gala. Evelyn almost laughed. What would she even say? Oh, it was lovely. I discovered my husband doesn't consider our marriage real, but the canapes were exceptional. Can't today. Maybe next week. She set the phone down and looked around the penthouse. Really looked at it. Every piece of furniture had been selected by designers. Every painting chosen by art consultants. Every single thing in this space had been curated and approved and optimized for the right kind of image. Except her. She was the only thing in Dante Moretti's life that hadn't been carefully controlled. And apparently that made her useful, but not real. The days that followed developed a pattern. Evelyn stopped doing all the small things she'd always done without thinking. She didn't fix Dante's tie in the mornings, even though it was always slightly crooked on the left side. Didn't wait up when he worked late. Didn't ask about his day or his meetings or the business deals that consumed his attention. She just existed, present but absent, there but not. And Dante noticed. Of course he did. He was a man who'd built an empire by noticing the smallest details. The way someone's hand shook when they lied. The flicker of fear before betrayal. The shift in loyalty before a coup. He noticed everything. You've been quiet lately, he said one evening, 3 weeks after the gala. They were sitting in the living room, him working on his laptop, her reading a book she couldn't remember the plot of. Have I? Evelyn. She looked up. He was watching her with that analytical expression, trying to figure her out. I'm fine. You're not. Then what am I, Dante? Tell me. You seem to know everything else. The words came out sharper than intended. She saw surprise flash across his face, genuine surprise. When was the last time she'd challenged him? When was the last time she'd said anything that wasn't pleasant and accommodating and exactly what a mafia wife should say? What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Forget it. Evelyn, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. She left him sitting there, laptop glowing in the dark, probably already analyzing the conversation for clues. That night marked a shift. A small one, but still. Because for the first time in 2 years, Evelyn Vale had pushed back, had let the cracks show, and she had no idea what would happen next. The phone call came on a Thursday morning while Dante was in his study and Evelyn was pretending to read in the living room. Mrs. Moretti? This is Sandra from Emerson Publishing. Evelyn's heart stopped. She'd almost forgotten about the application, had sent it in 3 months ago on a whim, one of those late-night moments when she'd wondered what her life might look like if she'd made different choices. Yes? We're pleased to inform you that you've been accepted into our internship program. We'd love to have you join our Boston office starting in January. Boston. Not Manhattan. Not this penthouse. Not this life of strategic appearances and useful marriages. Boston. Where nobody knew her name or her husband or what she was supposed to be. Mrs. Moretti, are you still there? Yes, Thank you. Can I have some time to consider? Of course. We'll need confirmation by next month. Evelyn ended the call and sat very still, staring at nothing. An internship in Boston. It paid almost nothing. Would probably require finding a tiny apartment in a neighborhood Dante would never set foot in. Would mean leaving behind everything she'd built here. Except what had she built? Really? A closet full of clothes she didn't pick? A penthouse she didn't decorate? A marriage that wasn't real. She grabbed her laptop and started researching before she could talk herself out of it. Boston apartments, publishing internships, what it cost to start over with nothing but yourself. It was terrifyingly possible. Over the next 2 weeks, Evelyn did something she'd never done before. She made plans without telling Dante, looked at apartments online, calculated how much money she'd need, figured out how to get her credentials transferred and her personal account separated from his. She felt guilty and liberated in equal measure. And then Serena Laurent appeared. It happened at a dinner party hosted by one of Dante's associates. Evelyn was making polite conversation with someone's wife about nothing when she heard the name. Serena Laurent, back from Milan apparently. Have you met her? No, I don't think so. She and Dante were quite close before he married. Everyone thought she'd be the one. Evelyn's smile didn't falter, but something inside her cracked a little more. How interesting. Oh, there she is now. Let me introduce you. And there she was, tall, elegant, effortlessly sophisticated in a way Evelyn had never quite managed. Dark hair, knowing smile, the kind of woman who belonged in this world without trying. Evelyn, this is Serena. Serena, Dante's wife. Charmed, Serena said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. I've heard so much about you. Funny, I haven't heard anything about you. It came out wrong, too sharp, too revealing, but Evelyn couldn't take it back. Serena's smile widened slightly. Well, Dante and I go back quite a ways, but that's ancient history now, isn't it? Except it didn't feel like ancient history when Evelyn watched them talk later that evening. The easy familiarity, the shared jokes she wasn't part of, the way Dante relaxed around Serena in a way he never did with his own wife. That night, Evelyn booked the flight to Boston. One way, leaving in 6 weeks. After the holidays, when everyone would be distracted and she could slip away quietly, she hid the confirmation email in a folder labeled Recipes because Dante never looked at those. Then she bought a suitcase and started packing slowly, carefully, one piece at a time. Things he wouldn't notice missing immediately. Summer clothes, even though it was November. Books she'd brought from her old life. The few photographs that were actually hers. She was 3 weeks away from leaving when Dante found the suitcase. She'd been careless, too comfortable in her secrecy. Had left the closet door open just an inch while she was in the shower. When she came out, towel wrapped around her, Dante was standing in the middle of their bedroom holding one of her sweaters. The suitcase was open on the bed, all her carefully packed things exposed. His face was absolutely expressionless. Explain this. Evelyn's entire body went cold. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. She was supposed to leave a note. Be gone before the conversation, before the confrontation. It's not what you think. Really? Because it looks like my wife is packing to leave me. The words hung between them, sharp and dangerous. How long have you been planning this? Dante? How long, Evelyn? His voice hadn't risen. That was somehow worse. The Mafia boss didn't need to yell. His controlled fury was more terrifying than any explosion. Since the gala. The gala. He set down the sweater with deliberate care. That was 2 months ago. 2 months you've been lying to me. I haven't been lying. You've been packing a suitcase in secret. What do you call that? I call it surviving. The word came out raw and honest and completely unplanned. Evelyn sat down on the edge of the bed because her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. What are you talking about? At the gala. I heard you, Dante. I heard what you said to those investors. His expression flickered, confusion replacing anger for just a second. What did I say? That I was useful. Her voice cracked. But I'd never be your real wife. She watched understanding dawn across his face. Watched him process the conversation, rewind it, realize what she'd overheard. Evelyn, don't. Please don't explain or justify or tell me I misunderstood. I heard what I heard, and I finally realized that everything I thought we had, everything I thought we were building, it was never real for you. I was just useful. A strategic acquisition. Another asset to manage. That's not... Then what am I, Dante? She looked up at him, tears finally spilling over. Tell me, what am I to you? For the first time in their entire marriage, Dante Moretti was speechless. The man who negotiated with senators and intimidated crime bosses and controlled an empire worth billions stood in their bedroom looking completely lost. You're my wife, he finally said. That's not an answer. It's the truth. No, it's a legal designation. It's a role I play. But what am I to you? Do you love me? Have you ever loved me? Or was this entire marriage just another business deal that worked out conveniently? Silence. Awful, confirming silence. Evelyn laughed, and it came out broken. That's what I thought. She stood up and started gathering the clothes still in the suitcase, movements jerky and desperate. Where are you going? Does it matter? Of course it matters. Why? I'm useful, right? You can find another useful wife. Maybe Serena's available. This isn't about Serena. This isn't about anything. Her voice finally cracked completely. That's the problem, Dante. This marriage isn't about anything except appearances and alliances and whatever political game you're playing. And I can't do it anymore. I can't wake up every day in this beautiful prison pretending I don't notice that you don't love me, that you've never loved me, that I'm just another piece of furniture in this perfect penthouse you've built. You're not Boston. The word came out flat, final. I got accepted to a publishing internship. It starts in 3 weeks. I was going to leave a note, but I guess we're doing this now. Dante looked like she'd physically struck him. Boston. It's not far. You can visit if you need to maintain appearances. Maintain appearances? His voice went dangerously soft. You think that's what this is about? What else would it be about? You're my wife. Stop saying that. Legal papers don't mean anything. I need you to tell me... Her voice broke completely. I need you to tell me why you married me. The truth. Not the story you tell everyone else. Not the strategic reasons. I need to know if any part of this was ever real for you. And Dante Moretti, the most powerful and feared man in New York, opened his mouth and no sound came out. Because the truth was something he'd spent his entire life avoiding. Evelyn wiped her eyes and zipped up the suitcase with shaking hands. That's what I thought. Evelyn, wait. For what? For you to tell me more useful lies? For you to explain how this is all some brilliant protection strategy? I don't want to hear it anymore, Dante. I'm tired of translating everything you do into what I wish it meant. I'm tired of loving someone who can't even admit... She stopped. Couldn't finish. Couldn't admit that after 2 years she'd finally spoken the word he'd never said. Love. She loved him. Had loved him probably since their 3rd date, when he'd taken her to this tiny Italian restaurant that didn't take reservations and didn't care who he was. When he'd been almost human for a few hours. Before the marriage and the appearances and the slow death of everything real between them. I'm leaving, she said quietly. You can tell people whatever you want, that I'm visiting family, that I need space, that the useful wife needed a vacation. I don't care anymore. She grabbed the suitcase and walked toward the door. Dante's hand shot out, catching her wrist. Not hard, not painful, just desperate. Don't go. 2 words. The most honest thing he'd said in months. Evelyn looked down at his hand on her wrist, then up at his face. For just a second, she saw something raw there, something that might have been fear or loss or the beginning of understanding. But it wasn't enough. Let me go, Dante. I can't. You have to. They stood there for what felt like hours but was probably seconds. His hand on her wrist, her suitcase weighing down her other arm, the whole weight of their broken marriage pressing down between them. Finally, his fingers loosened. She walked out of this bedroom, down the hallway, through the penthouse that had never been a home, past the expensive furniture and the curated art, and all the beautiful things that meant nothing. At the door, she paused, looked back. Dante stood in the hallway, absolutely still, watching her leave with an expression she'd never seen before, like a man watching his entire world end. Goodbye, Dante. She opened the door and left before he could say anything else, before she could change her mind, before the part of her that still loved him could drag her back into that beautiful prison. The elevator ride down felt eternal. Carlo was waiting with the car, but Evelyn waved him off and called for a regular taxi instead. She couldn't sit in that car with its leather seats and tinted windows and the ghost of every silent ride home. She needed something normal, something that wasn't part of Dante's carefully controlled world. The taxi driver didn't recognize her, didn't care who she was, just asked where she was going and drove when she gave him the address of Maria's apartment. As Manhattan blurred past the windows, Evelyn finally let herself cry. Not the elegant tears from movies, the ugly, gasping kind that came from somewhere deep and broken. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dante. Please come back. We need to talk. She turned off her phone and watched the city lights blend into meaningless streaks. The suitcase sat at her feet. Everything she owned that actually mattered fit in one bag. And somewhere behind her, in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, the most powerful man in New York stood alone in the dark, finally understanding what he'd lost. Maria's apartment smelled like lavender candles and old coffee, the kind of place that felt lived in rather than designed. Evelyn sat on the worn couch with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, still wearing yesterday's clothes, staring at nothing. You can stay as long as you need, Maria said, setting down a mug of tea Evelyn wouldn't drink. I mean it. Weeks, months, whatever. Thank you. Do you want to talk about it? No. Maria nodded and didn't push. That was why she was the only real friend Evelyn had left. She understood silence, understood that sometimes there weren't words big enough for the wreckage. Evelyn's phone had been buzzing all night. 17 missed calls from Dante. 23 texts. She'd read the first few, then stopped looking. Please come home. We need to talk about this. I can explain everything. Evelyn, answer me. The messages got progressively more desperate, more raw, until the last one came through around 4 in the morning. I'm sorry. 2 words he'd probably never said to anyone. 2 words that meant nothing because sorry didn't fix what was broken between them. She finally turned the phone completely off. He's going to come looking for you, Maria said quietly. You know that, right? I know. And when he does? I don't know. But she did know. Dante Moretti didn't lose things, didn't let go of anything he considered his. And whether or not their marriage was real by his definition, she was still legally his wife, still part of his carefully constructed empire. He'd come. It was just a question of when. The answer came 3 days later. Evelyn was helping Maria with dishes when someone knocked. Not the buzzer downstairs, the apartment door, which meant whoever it was had gotten past security, past the locked entrance, past every barrier that was supposed to keep people out. Maria looked at Evelyn. Evelyn set down the plate she'd been drying. I'll get it. She opened the door, already knowing who she'd find. Dante stood in the hallway wearing a suit that probably cost more than Maria's monthly rent, looking like he hadn't slept in 3 days. Dark circles under his eyes, jaw tight. Everything about his posture screamed exhaustion and barely controlled emotion. We need to talk. How did you find me? Carlo remembered where Maria lives. You used to have him drop you here for lunch. Of course. There was no such thing as privacy when you married a man who built empires on information and control. I don't want to talk to you. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. You've had 2 years to talk to me, Dante. You chose not to. What's changed? His jaw worked. She could see him fighting for control, fighting against whatever emotion was trying to break through his carefully maintained walls. You left. And that made a difference? Yes. The word came out rough, almost angry, like he resented the admission even as he made it. Maria appeared behind Evelyn, dish towel still in hand. Everything okay? It's fine, Evelyn said. Then to Dante, you have 5 minutes, not here, downstairs. She grabbed her coat and followed him down to the street where his car waited. Carlo stood by the driver's door, carefully not looking at either of them. Evelyn climbed into the back seat, and Dante slid in beside her. The door closed. Suddenly, the space felt impossibly small. Talk, she said. Dante looked at her for a long moment, and she saw something in his expression she'd never seen before. Uncertainty. Like he'd rehearsed this conversation 100 times and now couldn't remember any of the words. What I said at the gala. You need to understand the context. The context was pretty clear, Dante. I'm useful, but not real. What else is there to understand? Everything. He rubbed his face, a gesture so unlike him it was almost shocking. The controlled Mafia boss never showed frustration, never showed anything. In my world, love is weakness. Caring about someone makes you vulnerable, gives your enemies leverage. If they know you actually love your wife, not just married her for appearances, then she becomes a target, the biggest liability you have. So you protect me by pretending you don't care about me? Yes. That's insane. That's survival. His voice hardened. You don't understand the world I operate in, the people I deal with. 3 years ago, Vincent Russo had a wife he actually loved, made the mistake of showing it. Someone figured it out, used her against him. By the time Vincent agreed to their terms, she'd been missing for 6 days. Did they find her? Eventually. His expression went dark. But not the same way she left. Evelyn felt cold. She'd heard stories, of course, rumors about the violence that existed just beneath the surface of Dante's world. But she'd never wanted to look too closely, never wanted to acknowledge what her husband actually did when he wasn't coming home at 3 in the morning. So you thought lying to me was protection? I thought keeping distance was protection. I thought if everyone believed our marriage was strategic, just another business arrangement, Then you'd be safer. They wouldn't bother coming after you because you wouldn't matter enough. Except I heard you say it, Dante. Not them. You. You said I'd never be your real wife. You said it like you believed it. I had to believe it. The words came out almost desperate. Don't you understand? If I let myself feel if I acknowledged... He stopped. Couldn't finish. Evelyn waited, heart pounding. If you let yourself feel what? She pressed. It doesn't matter now. Yes, it does. You came here. You asked for 5 minutes, so say it. Say whatever you've been avoiding for 2 years. Dante looked at her, and for just a second, all his walls came down. She saw raw emotion there, fear and loss, and something that might have been love if she let herself believe it. You became the first thing I searched for every night when I came home, he said quietly. I'd walk into that penthouse, and the only thing that mattered was whether you were there, whether you'd waited up, whether you'd smile at me like I was something other than the monster everyone else sees. And that terrified me, because in my world, that kind of feeling gets people killed. The confession hung between them, more honest than anything he'd ever said. Evelyn felt something crack inside her chest. Part of her wanted to believe him, wanted to take those words and build a bridge back to him. But another part, the part that had spent 2 years feeling invisible, couldn't let go that easily. Then why didn't you just tell me? Because I'm a coward. He laughed, bitter and self-aware. I can face down senators and crime bosses and people who want me dead, but telling my own wife how I feel, that I couldn't do. So I just kept you at distance, told myself it was for your protection, that you were safer if I didn't love you. Did it work? What? Not loving me. Did it work? Did you manage it? Silence, the kind that answered everything. No, he finally said. It didn't work at all. Evelyn closed her eyes. This should feel like victory, like vindication, but instead it just felt exhausting. I'm still going to Boston. She felt him go rigid beside her. Evelyn, you had 2 years to figure this out, Dante. 2 years to tell me any of this, and you chose to keep me at arm's length instead. You chose to protect yourself rather than trust me. So now I'm choosing myself. What does that mean? It means I need space, time. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not just Dante Moretti's useful wife. That's not what you are. Then what am I? Really? Because I don't even know anymore. I've spent 2 years being whoever you needed me to be, wearing the right clothes, saying the right things, playing the perfect Mafia wife. And somewhere in all that, I lost myself completely. So let me help you find yourself again. You can't. That's the problem. You're part of what I lost. The words came out harsher than she intended, but they were true. Being with Dante had slowly erased her, not because he was cruel or deliberately controlling, but because his world was so consuming it left no room for anything else. When does your flight leave? His voice was carefully neutral. Saturday. That's in 3 days. I know. And you're sure about this? Sure about? No. She looked at him finally. I'm not sure about anything except that I can't breathe in that penthouse anymore. I can't keep pretending. I can't keep waiting for you to love me the way I love you. The admission slipped out before she could stop it. She saw shock register on his face. Then something else, something that looked almost like pain. Evelyn, your 5 minutes are up. She opened the car door and stepped out onto the sidewalk before he could say anything else. Before she could take back the words or soften them, or make this easier for either of them. Maria was waiting upstairs, wisely not asking questions. Just handed Evelyn a glass of wine and turned on a terrible reality show neither of them watched. Evelyn's phone, still turned off, sat on the coffee table like an accusation. She didn't turn it back on. The next 2 days passed in a strange fog. Maria went to work and Evelyn stayed in the apartment, avoiding the windows, avoiding her phone, avoiding everything that connected her to the life she'd just walked away from. On Friday afternoon, Maria came home early with groceries and an expression that meant trouble. What? Evelyn asked. Don't freak out. That's never a good start to a conversation. Dante's been calling me. Evelyn set down the book she hadn't been reading. What did he say? That you're not answering your phone, that he's worried, that... Maria hesitated. That if you really want to leave, he won't stop you, but he wants to see you one more time before you go. No. Evelyn, I said no. I already talked to him. I already explained. There's nothing left to say. Are you sure? Because he sounded, I don't know, different. Like maybe he's actually figured some things out. Too late. But even as she said it, Evelyn felt doubt creeping in. What if he had figured things out? What if she left tomorrow and spent the rest of her life wondering whether they could have made it work? She shoved the thought away. She'd spent 2 years making excuses for him, 2 years translating his silence into what she hoped it meant. She couldn't do it anymore. Saturday morning arrived gray and cold. Maria drove her to the airport, chattering nervously about nothing to fill the silence. You'll call me when you land? Of course. And if you need anything, money, support, someone to yell at, I know, thank you. Maria pulled up to the departures terminal and hugged her tight. Go be yourself for a while. Figure out what you actually want, not what you think you should want. When did you get so wise? Probably around the time my best friend married a Mafia boss. Evelyn grabbed her suitcase and headed inside, trying not to think about what she was leaving behind, or who. The airport was crowded with weekend travelers, families with screaming kids, business people staring at laptops, everyone moving with that particular airport urgency. Evelyn checked in, got through security, found her gate. Boarding started in 40 minutes. She bought terrible coffee and sat watching planes take off through the window, each one a small escape, each one carrying people toward different lives. Her phone buzzed. She'd finally turned it back on this morning, and now she almost regretted it. A text from Dante. I know you're at the airport. I know your flight leaves at 11:15. I'm not going to stop you, but I need you to know something first. Her heart started pounding. Another message came through. I failed you. I spent 2 years treating emotions like liabilities and you like a business asset. I told myself it was protection, but really I was just protecting myself from having to be vulnerable, from having to admit that I needed you more than I've ever needed anyone. Evelyn stared at the screen, unable to breathe. You asked me what you are to me. Here's the truth. You're the only person who ever made me want to be something other than what I am. The only one who saw past the Mafia boss to whatever's underneath. And I was too afraid to acknowledge that because once I did, I'd have to admit how much I'd lose if you ever left. And now you're leaving anyway. So I guess fear was pointless after all. Her hands were shaking. She read the messages again, then again. This was what she'd wanted for 2 years. Honesty. Vulnerability. Some proof that she mattered beyond being useful. So why did it feel like her heart was being torn in half? A final message came through. Go to Boston. Build the life you deserve. But know that when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. Learning how to be the kind of man who deserves you. Evelyn's vision blurred. She didn't realize she was crying until tears hit her phone screen. Now boarding Group A for Flight 2847 to Boston. She stood up automatically, grabbing her bag. Walked toward the gate like someone in a dream. Showed her boarding pass. Walked down the jetway. Stopped. She stood there in the middle of the jetway while people pushed past her, muttering complaints. Stood there with her suitcase and her ticket and her chance at freedom, and couldn't make herself take another step, because walking onto that plane meant accepting that her marriage was over, that whatever she and Dante might have been, was finished. Was she ready for that? Was she really ready to close that door permanently? Miss, you need to keep moving, a flight attendant said. Evelyn looked at her plane ticket, then at her phone, then back at the plane waiting at the end of the jetway. The decision felt impossible. Stay or go. Give up or try again. Accept what Dante had finally offered or protect herself from more heartbreak. Miss, I'm sorry, Evelyn heard herself say. I can't get on this plane. She turned around and walked back up the jetway, fighting against the flow of boarding passengers. Past the gate agent looking confused. Back into the terminal. Her phone was already in her hand, pulling up Dante's number before she could second-guess herself. It rang once. Evelyn? His voice sounded wrecked, hopeful and terrified simultaneously. Where are you? She asked. Home. I mean, the penthouse. Oh, where are you? I thought, I'm at the airport. I was about to board and Her voice cracked. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get on that plane without seeing you first. Silence. She could hear him breathing. What does that mean? He finally asked, finally. I don't know yet, but I think maybe we need to have an actual conversation. Not 5 minutes in a car, not text messages, a real conversation about what this marriage is and what we both want it to be. Okay. The word came out rough. Okay. Yes. Whatever you need. I'm coming back, but Dante, this doesn't mean everything's fixed. This doesn't mean I'm just going to slot back into being the useful wife. We have things to figure out. I know. And you have to be honest with me. Actually, honest. No more protecting me by keeping me at distance. I will. I promise. Promises from Dante Moretti usually involved contracts and witnesses and legal leverage. But this one sounded different, personal, like maybe he actually meant it. I'll be there in an hour. She ended the call before either of them could say anything else to complicate this already impossibly complicated situation. The taxi ride back to Manhattan felt endless. Traffic was terrible. The driver kept trying to make small talk, and Evelyn sat in the back seat wondering what the hell she was doing. Was this stupid? Was she walking right back into the same pattern that had broken her in the first place? Maybe. Probably. But at least this time she was walking in with her eyes open. The penthouse looked exactly the same when she let herself in, all marble and expensive art and carefully curated perfection. But something felt different, off somehow. It took her a moment to realize what it was. Dante's suit jacket thrown over a chair, coffee mug left on the counter, papers scattered across the dining table instead of neatly organized in his study. The penthouse looked lived in, almost messy, almost human. Evelyn? She turned. Dante stood in the hallway, still wearing yesterday's clothes, hair disheveled, looking nothing like the controlled Mafia boss she'd married. You came back. I told you I would. They stood there staring at each other across the penthouse, neither moving, neither speaking. Two people who'd lived together for 2 years but never really known each other. I don't know how to do this, he finally said. Do what? Be vulnerable, be honest, be... He gestured vaguely. Whatever this requires. Neither do I. Then I guess we figure it out together. Evelyn set down her suitcase and took a step toward him. Then another. Until they were standing close enough to touch, but not touching. I heard what you said, at the gala, and it broke something in me, she said quietly. But what broke me more was realizing you didn't even know it. That you could say those words and then come find me on the terrace and put your coat around my shoulders like nothing happened. Like you hadn't just told a room full of people that our marriage wasn't real. It was real to me. His voice was rough. Maybe I didn't show it. Maybe I kept walls up. But every single day with you was real. Then why did you say I'd never be your real wife? Because they were pushing me to marry Serena. Said she understood the family business better. Had the right connections. Came from the right world. And I needed them to back off. Needed them to stop seeing you as temporary. So you said I wasn't real? I said you'd never be what they expected a Mafia wife to be. Never be the strategic alliance they wanted, because you were... He stopped. Started again. You were mine, not theirs, not some political arrangement. Mine. The word came out possessive and raw and completely honest. Evelyn felt tears building. I wish you'd told me that 2 months ago. I wish I'd told you 2 years ago. They stood there in their perfect penthouse that had never been a home, surrounded by expensive things that meant nothing, trying to figure out how to rebuild what they'd never actually built in the first place. I can't be the wife I was before, Evelyn finally said. I can't go back to fixing your ties and waiting up at night and pretending I don't notice how far away you are, even when you're standing right next to me. I don't want you to be that wife. Then what do you want? I want... He reached out slowly, carefully, like she might disappear if he moved too fast. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. I want you to be angry when I work too late. I want you to call me out when I'm being an emotionally unavailable bastard. I want you to take up space in my life instead of trying to fit into whatever space I leave for you. That's not very useful. Fuck useful. The curse came out harsh, honest. I'm tired of useful. I want real. And then he kissed her. Not the careful, controlled kisses they'd shared before. Not the political kisses for cameras or the obligatory kisses before bed. This was desperate and honest and tasted like 2 years of things unsaid. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Evelyn rested her forehead against his. "This is going to be messy," she whispered. "I know. We're going to fight, real fights, not the polite disagreements we've been having." "Good. And you have to actually tell me things. What you're feeling, what you're thinking, not make me guess or translate your silence." "I'll try." "Dante?" "I will." He pulled back enough to look at her. "I will tell you things, even when it's uncomfortable, even when I don't have the right words. I promise." There was that word again, promise, from a man who didn't make promises lightly. "Okay," she said. "Okay? Okay, we try. We figure this out. We build something real." Relief flooded his expression. He pulled her close, and for the first time in 2 years, Evelyn let herself actually hold on to him, let herself believe this might work. They stood there in their penthouse as afternoon light cut through the windows, two people who'd been married for years finally starting from scratch. It wasn't fixed, not even close, but maybe it was finally real. Chasin. The next few weeks were strange, different, like learning how to be married all over again. Dante actually came home for dinner, sometimes late, always apologizing, but he came. They'd sit at the table they'd never used before and talk. Real conversations. About his day, about her applications to other publishing programs, about nothing and everything. He told her things he'd never mentioned before. The constant political pressure, the threats that came weekly, the weight of controlling an empire while trying to stay human. And Evelyn told him about the loneliness, the feeling of being invisible, the way she'd slowly disappeared into being his wife and forgotten how to be herself. It wasn't easy. They fought. Real fights where voices rose and things got said that hurt. Where Dante would retreat into cold silence and Evelyn would push harder instead of backing down. Where they'd go to bed angry and wake up still angry and have to figure out how to come back together anyway. But they kept trying. Then one Friday evening, 3 weeks after Evelyn had almost left for Boston, everything changed again. Dante came home early, actually early before 7, and found Evelyn in his study looking at something on his laptop. "What are you doing?" She looked up and her expression was strange, closed off in a way it hadn't been since she'd come back. "Who's Serena Laurent?" His entire body went rigid. "What?" "Serena Laurent. I saw the emails. You've been meeting with her, weekly, for the past 2 weeks. Evelyn, are you sleeping with her?" The question came out flat, detached, like she'd already decided the answer and was just confirming. "No, absolutely not." "Then why are you meeting with her? Why are there dozens of emails between you? Why didn't you mention it once in the past 3 weeks while we've supposedly been learning how to be honest with each other?" Dante closed the study door carefully, came into the room like he was approaching something dangerous. "She works for the Romano Foundation. We've been coordinating security for their winter gala." "That's it? That's the explanation?" "Yes." "You've had lunch with her 4 times in 2 weeks because of security coordination?" "It's complicated." "Everything with you is complicated." Her voice finally rose. "I'm trying, Dante. I'm really trying to trust you, to believe that we're building something real. And then I find out you've been secretly meeting with the woman everyone thought you'd marry instead of me, and you didn't think that was worth mentioning?" "I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react exactly like this." "React like what? Like a wife who's tired of finding out her husband keeps things from her? Like someone looking for reasons to leave again?" The words hung between them, sharp and accusatory. Evelyn felt something cold settle in her chest. "Is that what you think? That I'm looking for an excuse to run? I think you've had one foot out the door since you came back. Because you keep giving me reasons to." "Meeting with a work associate is not a reason. Hiding it from me is." They stood there glaring at each other, all the progress they'd made suddenly feeling fragile and temporary. "You don't trust me," Dante finally said. "You don't give me anything to trust. You say you're learning to be honest, but you're still keeping secrets. Still making decisions about what I should and shouldn't know. Still treating me like what? Like I'm not really your wife." The words came out broken, honest, and Evelyn saw them land like physical blows. Dante's expression shifted, the anger drained away, replaced by something that looked like defeat. "I don't know how to do this," he said quietly. "I spent my entire life learning how to control information, how to use secrets as leverage, how to never show vulnerability, And now you're asking me to just, what? Trust that being honest won't destroy everything? Yes, that's exactly what I'm asking. And what if I can't? What if this is just who I am? Then we're done. Because I can't spend the rest of my life wondering what you're hiding from me, wondering if you're being honest or if you're just telling me what I want to hear while you keep the real truth somewhere else. Silence. Long and awful and confirming. Serena called me 2 weeks ago, Dante finally said. Asked if we could meet. Said it was important. I met her for coffee thinking it was foundation business, but he stopped. But what? Evelyn's heart was pounding. But she told me she made a mistake years ago, that she should have married me when I asked instead of running off to Milan, that she's ready now if I am. The confession settled between them like poison. And what did you say? I told her I'm married. That's it? That's all you said? What else was there to say? How about I love my wife? How about I chose Evelyn and I'd choose her again? How about literally anything that makes me feel like I'm more than just a legal obligation you're stuck with? Dante dragged his hands through his hair, destroying the perfect style. She asked me to meet again, to talk more. And I said yes because what? Because I wanted to prove to myself that I didn't feel anything for her, that what we have is real. And? Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. And I don't feel anything for her. She's elegant and appropriate and everything my family wanted me to marry. But when I'm with her, I just feel nothing. Empty. Whereas with me, with you, I feel everything all the time. It's terrifying and exhausting and the only thing that makes me feel human. He moved closer, slowly, like she was something wild that might bolt. I should have told you, should have mentioned she'd reached out, should have said no to the meetings instead of trying to prove something to myself. I know that, and I'm sorry. Evelyn wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to the hurt and the betrayal and the feeling that he'd broken their fragile trust. But she also heard the honesty in his voice, saw the vulnerability in his expression. No more secrets, she said firmly. I don't care if you think I'll overreact or misunderstand. You tell me things. Everything. Everything? Everything that matters. If someone from your past shows up wanting you back, I need to know. If you're meeting with people who might be a threat to us, I need to know. If you're struggling with something, I need to know. That's what being married actually means, Dante. Sharing the difficult things, not just the easy ones. He nodded slowly. Okay. No more secrets. Do you still have meetings scheduled with her? One more. Monday. To finalize the security protocols. Then I'm coming with you. Evelyn? Non-negotiable. You want me to trust you? You want to prove this marriage is real? Then I come with you, and we face her together. She saw him process that. Saw the Mafia boss who hated being told what to do struggle against the husband who was trying to learn how to compromise. Okay, he finally said. You come with me. Okay. They stood there in his study, surrounded by the paperwork and secrets of his empire, trying to figure out how to build something that could survive in this world. It still wasn't fixed. But maybe, just maybe, they were finally starting to understand what it would take. Monday morning arrived cold and bright. Evelyn dressed carefully, not the designer clothes Dante's stylist picked, but something she'd bought for herself. Simple black dress, minimal jewelry, armor that felt like hers. The restaurant where they were meeting Serena was in Midtown, expensive and private, the kind of place where powerful people had conversations they didn't want overheard. Serena was already there when they arrived, elegant in cream and gold, looking like she belonged in a museum or a magazine spread. Dante, she stood to greet them, then stopped when she saw Evelyn. Oh, I didn't realize you were bringing your wife. Evelyn insisted. Dante's hand settled on the small of Evelyn's back. A small gesture, but claiming. They sat. A waiter materialized with menus and disappeared again. So, Serena said, smiling at Dante like Evelyn wasn't there. I finalized the security arrangements. Everything should be straightforward. Good. Though I must say I was hoping we might have more time to catch up. It's been years. We're busy. Both of us. Evelyn watched the interaction with detached interest. Watched Serena touch Dante's arm when she laughed. watched her lean in slightly, invading space with practiced ease. And she watched Dante pull back, create distance, keep his body language closed off. "You know," Serena said, still speaking primarily to Dante, "I've been thinking about what I said, about how I made a mistake years ago. Serena, I wasn't ready then, but things are different now. I've built my career, established myself. I'm finally in a place where I could be the kind of partner you need. I already have a partner." The words came out firm, final, and Dante reached across the table to take Evelyn's hand. Serena's smile faltered slightly. "Of course. I just meant—" "I know what you meant," Evelyn interrupted quietly. "But you should understand something. Dante and I are working on our marriage, actively, honestly, and that means there's no space for whatever you think you're offering. I wasn't—" "Yes, you were." Evelyn kept her voice calm but direct. "You saw an opening and took it. That's smart, strategic, but you're too late." Serena looked between them, finally seeming to actually see what was there. The way Dante held Evelyn's hand, the way they sat close despite the large table, the way they looked like an actual couple instead of a political arrangement. "I see," she said carefully. "Well, then I suppose there's nothing more to discuss beyond the security details." The rest of the meeting was professional, efficient. Serena went through the protocols, Dante approved them, and within 20 minutes they were standing outside the restaurant. "That was," Dante started. "Necessary," Evelyn finished. "We needed to do that together. So she'd know, so you'd know, so I'd know. And now you know? Now I know you meant what you said about choosing me." He pulled her close, right there on the Manhattan sidewalk, with people streaming past. "I choose you, every day, even on the hard days, especially on the hard days." Evelyn let herself lean into him, let herself believe it. They walked back to the car hand in hand, and for the first time since the gala, Evelyn felt like maybe they actually had a chance. But that night, everything fell apart anyway. Dante got a phone call around midnight. Evelyn was already in bed reading when she heard his voice from the study. Loud, angry, the tone he used when things were about to get dangerous. She got up and found him standing by the window, phone pressed to his ear, jaw locked tight. "I don't care what he wants. The answer is no. No. Tell him if he pushes this, he'll regret it." He ended the call and just stood there, radiating tension. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Business." "Dante, I said it's nothing, Evelyn." And just like that, the walls slammed back up. The husband who'd been learning to share disappeared, replaced by the Mafia boss who controlled everything through silence and secrets. "You're shutting me out again. This isn't something you need to worry about. That's not your decision to make." "Actually, it is." He turned to face her, and his expression was hard, closed. "Some things are mine to handle. You can't be involved in everything." "I'm not asking to be involved. I'm asking you to tell me what's wrong. And I'm telling you it's handled." They stared at each other across the study, and Evelyn felt everything they'd built start to crack. "We were supposed to be past this," she said quietly. "We were supposed to be honest with each other. About our marriage. Not about every business decision I make." "Where's the line, Dante? How do I know what's business and what's something that could blow up our entire life? You trust me." "I'm trying to, but you keep making it impossible." He turned back to the window, dismissing her. "This conversation is over." "No, it's not." "Evelyn, you don't get to decide when we're done talking. That's not how this works. Not anymore." He spun around and she saw real anger there. "Then how does it work? You tell me. Because I'm trying to protect you from the ugliest parts of my world, and you keep pushing to be included in things that could get you hurt. What are you protecting me from?" "Everything. The violence, the threats, the constant pressure, the knowledge that people want me dead and would happily use you to make that happen." "So you're going to keep me in the dark? Keep me safe by keeping me ignorant?" "If that's what it takes, yes." Evelyn felt something inside her break cleanly, like a bone snapping, final and devastating. "Then we're done." The words came out calm, absolutely certain. Dante went still. "What?" "I said we're done because this—" She gestured between them. "This isn't a marriage. This is you controlling everything while I sit in this beautiful penthouse pretending I matter, and I can't do it anymore." You're overreacting. No, I'm finally reacting appropriately. I gave you another chance. I came back from the airport. I tried to rebuild this with you, but you're still the same person you were 3 months ago. You just got better at hiding it temporarily. That's not fair. Neither is asking me to trust you while you keep treating me like I'm too fragile to handle reality. They stood there in the study at midnight, everything they'd tried to build collapsing between them. What do you want from me? Dante's voice was raw. You want me to tell you that call was about a shipment that got intercepted? That I have people missing and possibly dead? That someone's pushing boundaries and I might have to make decisions that involve violence? You want me to bring that into our bedroom? Yes, because it's already in our bedroom whether you admit it or not. It's in every silence, every time you come home late, every time you look at me like you're calculating how much I can handle. I'd rather know the truth than keep guessing. The truth is ugly. So is this marriage if you keep lying to me? Dante flinched like she'd struck him. I have never lied to you. Omission is still lying, and you've been omitting everything that matters since the day we got married. Silence. Brutal and confirming. I don't know how to give you what you want, he finally said. Then I guess we really are done. Evelyn turned and walked out of the study, down the hallway, into their bedroom where she grabbed the suitcase that had never been fully unpacked. Dante appeared in the doorway. Where are you going? Back to Maria's. I'll call a lawyer in the morning. A lawyer? For the divorce. That's what comes next, right? When you finally admit the marriage doesn't work? She saw panic flash across his face. Real, undeniable panic. Evelyn, wait. Please, just let's talk about this. We did talk. We've been talking for weeks, and it keeps coming back to the same problem. You can't let me in. You can't trust me with the real parts of your life. So what's the point of staying married? The point is, his voice cracked. The point is, I love you. The words hung in the air. The first time he'd actually said them, and somehow that made everything worse. You love me enough to say it when I'm leaving, Evelyn said, tears finally spilling over. But not enough to actually let me be your wife. Not enough to share the burden. Not enough to trust me with the truth. I'm trying. No, you're not. You're trying to have it both ways, the marriage and the control, the intimacy and the distance. And it doesn't work like that, Dante. It never has. She zipped up the suitcase and faced him one last time. I love you too, she said quietly. But love isn't enough if you can't actually be vulnerable with me. If you can't trust me with all of you, not just the parts you think I can handle, then this was never going to work. She walked past him, and this time he didn't try to stop her. The penthouse door closed behind her with absolute finality. And in the study, Dante Moretti, the most powerful mafia boss in New York, finally understood what he'd lost. The taxi driver didn't ask questions when Evelyn climbed in at 1 a.m. with mascara streaked down her face and a suitcase that felt heavier than it should. He just drove while she stared out the window at Manhattan blurring past, all those lights that used to look beautiful now, just looking cold. Her phone started ringing before they'd gone 3 blocks. Dante. She declined the call. It rang again immediately. Declined. Again. She finally turned it off and shoved it in her purse. Maria answered the door in pajamas, took one look at Evelyn, and pulled her inside without a word. Made tea neither of them drank, put on a movie neither of them watched, just sat there on the couch while Evelyn cried the ugly kind of tears that came from somewhere deep and broken. He said he loved me, Evelyn finally managed around 3 a.m. He finally said it, and it still wasn't enough. Because words are cheap, Maria said quietly. Actions are what matter. I wanted it to work so badly. I really thought, her voice cracked. I thought if he could just learn to be honest, we could make it. Maybe some people don't know how to be honest. Maybe they're too damaged. Or maybe I was just stupid for thinking a mafia boss could actually love someone. Maria didn't argue with that. Evelyn stayed on the couch that night, wrapped in blankets that smelled like lavender detergent and other people's normal lives. She must have slept eventually because she woke up to gray morning light and the smell of coffee. Her phone turned back on, showed 47 missed calls, 31 from Dante, the rest from numbers she didn't recognize. There were also texts, so many texts, from Dante. Please come home. We need to talk. I'm sorry. Please. From Carlo. Mrs. Moretti, Mr. Moretti has asked me to check on you. Please respond so I know you're safe. From an unknown number, this is Vincent Russo. I'm sorry to hear about your troubles. If you need anything, please reach out. That last one made her cold. Vincent Russo was one of Dante's associates. Dangerous in the quiet way that was somehow worse than obvious violence. If word had already spread that she'd left Dante, if people like Vincent Russo were reaching out, her phone rang. Another unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Evelyn Moretti? Who is this? My name is Detective Sarah Chen with the NYPD. I need to speak with you about your husband. Evelyn's heart stopped. Is he hurt? No, ma'am, but we have some questions about his business activities. Would you be willing to come in for an interview? I can't. It's entirely voluntary, but it would be helpful to have your perspective. We can send a car if transportation is an issue. I need to think about it. Of course. Here's my direct number. Call anytime. Evelyn ended the call and stared at her phone. The police. The police wanted to talk to her about Dante's business, which meant something had happened, something big enough to make them reach out to his estranged wife. She should call him, warn him. That's what a wife would do. Except she wasn't sure she was his wife anymore, not in any way that mattered. Maria came out of the bedroom already dressed for work. You okay? The police just called. They want to talk to me about Dante. Jesus, what did you say? That I needed to think about it. Are you going to? I don't know. Maybe. I don't owe him anything, right? He kept secrets from me, shut me out. Why should I protect him now? But even as she said it, Evelyn knew she wouldn't talk to the police. Whatever Dante had done, whatever darkness lived in his world, she couldn't be the one to expose it. Not because she loved him, though she did, miserably, but because that's not who she was. She called Detective Chen back an hour later. I can't help you. I don't know anything about my husband's business. We kept those parts of our lives separate. Mrs. Moretti, if you're afraid, I'm not afraid. I just don't have information you'd find useful. I'm sorry. She hung up before the detective could push harder. Then she made the other call she'd been avoiding. Dante answered on the first ring. Evelyn, the police called me. Silence. Heavy and telling. What did they want? His voice was carefully neutral. To talk about your business activities. I told them I didn't know anything. Thank you. I didn't do it for you. I did it because it's the truth. You made sure I never knew anything, remember? The barb landed. She heard him exhale slowly. Can we meet? Please, just to talk. There's nothing left to say. Evelyn, I called a lawyer this morning. You'll get the paperwork in a few days. Another silence, longer this time. You're really doing this, he said quietly. Yes. What if I promised to change? What if I swore I'd tell you everything from now on? You've made promises before, Dante. You broke all of them. I never promised to tell you everything. I promised to try. That's different. Exactly. That's the problem. You were always trying, never actually doing. And I can't spend my life waiting for you to become someone capable of real intimacy. She heard something break in his breathing. What do I have to do? Tell me what you need and I'll do it. I need you to be someone you're not. That's the truth. And neither of us can fix that. Evelyn, please, She ended the call before he could finish, before the desperate edge in his voice could make her reconsider, before she could weaken. Her hands were shaking. She set the phone down and stared at it like it might explode. Maria had left for work. The apartment was too quiet. Evelyn made more coffee she wouldn't drink and tried to figure out what came next. Find an apartment, find a job, find a life that didn't revolve around being Dante Moretti's wife. Start over. Again. The thought was exhausting. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You should know the truth about your husband before you divorce him. Meet me at Cafe Luca at noon. Come alone. Evelyn stared at the message. S. Serena. She almost deleted it, almost ignored it completely, but curiosity won out over caution. At 11:45, she walked into Cafe Luca, a small place in the West Village, far from the expensive restaurants in Midtown where Dante's world operated. Serena was already there, elegant even in casual clothes, sitting at a corner table with 2 espressos. You came, Serena said. What do you want? To give you information you deserve to have. She slid a manila envelope across the table. Before you make permanent decisions. Evelyn stared at the envelope. What is this? The truth about why Dante married you. Open it. Every instinct screamed not to, but Evelyn's hands were already reaching for the envelope, pulling out the papers inside. Financial documents, contracts, legal agreements, and photographs. Her wedding photos. But not the official ones. These were taken from a distance, surveillance style, and they were marked with dates and notes in handwriting she didn't recognize. Target acquisition successful, marriage complete, asset secured. What is this? Evelyn's voice came out hollow. Proof that your marriage was never about love. It was about inheritance. Serena's voice was almost gentle, almost pitying. Your grandfather, William Vale. He died 6 months before you met Dante, yes? Yes. What does that have to do with anything? Everything. Because William Vale left you $30 million in a trust. But the trust had conditions. You had to be married to access it, and it had to be before your 30th birthday. Evelyn felt cold spreading through her chest. That's not, look at the dates. Your grandfather died in March. You met Dante in May. You were married by September, and you turned 30 in October, exactly 1 month after the wedding when the trust money became accessible. The paper swam in front of Evelyn's eyes. Marriage certificate, trust documents, bank transfers, all dated precisely, all perfectly timed. You were a business transaction, Serena continued quietly. Dante needed capital to expand his operations. You needed a husband to unlock your inheritance. It was the perfect arrangement, strategic, efficient, completely calculated. No, he said, he told me. He told you what you needed to hear. That's what he does. That's what makes him so dangerous. Evelyn's hands were shaking so badly the papers rattled. Why are you telling me this? Because I made the mistake of loving him once. I know what it's like to think you matter to Dante Moretti, to believe you're different, special, but the truth is we're all just pieces on his chessboard, and I don't want you making the same mistake I did, thinking he's capable of choosing love over strategy. Get out. Evelyn, get out. Leave now. Serena stood slowly. I'm sorry, I know this hurts, but you deserve to know the truth before you wasted more of your life on a man who's incapable of loving anyone more than he loves control. She left. Evelyn sat there alone with the documents spread across the table, feeling her entire world disassemble piece by piece. Everything made sense now. The rushed courtship, the quick wedding, the way Dante had seemed so interested initially and then immediately distant after they married. The timing of everything. She'd thought she was special, thought he'd chosen her, but she was just another acquisition, another asset, another strategic move in his endless game of control and power. The worst part was how stupid she felt, how completely blind. All those moments she'd treasured, their first date, his proposal, the wedding itself, they were all contaminated now, recontextualized as business transactions rather than romance. Her phone rang. Dante. She let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again. Finally, she answered, What? Where are you? His voice was tight, worried. Carlos said you left Maria's apartment hours ago. I'm out. Evelyn, I need to know you're safe. Why? So you can protect your investment? Silence, sharp and telling. What are you talking about? The trust, Dante. My grandfather's trust. The $30 million you got access to 1 month after we got married. She heard his sharp intake of breath, heard the exact moment he understood what she knew. Who told you about that? Does it matter? Is it true? More silence, longer, confirming everything. It's not what you think, he finally said. Really? Because I think you married me for money. I think you found out about the trust and saw an opportunity. I think every single moment of our relationship was calculated and strategic and had absolutely nothing to do with actually wanting me. That's not... Evelyn, listen to me. Did you know about the trust before you asked me out? Silence. Did you know, Dante? Yes. The word came out quiet, defeated. Yes, I knew. Evelyn felt something inside her die, some last hope she'd been clinging to without realizing it. So everything was a lie. From the beginning, every date, every conversation, the proposal, all of it was just you playing a role to get access to my money. It started that way. His voice was rough, but it changed. You have to believe me. I don't have to believe anything you say ever again. You spent 2 years lying to me. Why would you stop now? I'm not lying. Yes, I knew about the trust. Yes, that's why I approached you initially. But somewhere along the way, stop. Just stop. I don't want to hear more excuses, more justifications, more of your carefully calculated words designed to manipulate me into staying. They're not calculated. I'm telling you the truth. The truth? She laughed, and it came out broken. You don't even know what truth means. You've spent so long controlling and manipulating and strategizing that you can't tell the difference between real feelings and convenient ones. That's not fair. Neither is marrying someone for money while pretending to love them. Her voice cracked. People in the cafe were staring. She didn't care. Where are you? Dante asked quietly. Tell me where you are and I'll come there. We'll talk, face to face. So you can look me in the eye and lie more convincingly? So I can explain, there's nothing to explain. I understand perfectly now. You needed money. I had money. You married me to get it. That's the whole story. Everything else, the romance, the connection, the promises, that was all just performance. Evelyn, she ended the call and turned off her phone completely, shoved the documents back into the envelope, left money on the table for coffee she hadn't touched, and walked out into November cold that bit through her coat. She walked for hours. Through the West Village, past Washington Square Park, down streets she'd never been on, in neighborhoods she didn't know. Just walked until her feet hurt and her face was numb and she couldn't feel anything except exhausted rage. By the time she made it back to Maria's apartment, it was nearly dark. Maria took one look at her face and pulled her inside. What happened? Evelyn handed her the envelope, watched her read through the documents, watched understanding and fury cross her face. That son of a bitch, Maria said. That calculating son of a bitch. I was so stupid. You weren't stupid. You were trusting. There's a difference. I should have seen it. Should have questioned why someone like him would want someone like me. Should have... Stop. This isn't your fault. He lied. He manipulated. He's the one who did this, not you. But it felt like her fault. Felt like she should have known. Should have seen the calculation behind every smile, every touch, every word. Her phone, turned back on, immediately started buzzing. Dante. She declined the call. It rang again. She turned it off again. This pattern continued for 3 days. Dante calling constantly. Showing up at Maria's building until the doorman threatened to call the police. Sending Carlo with messages. Sending flowers with notes she threw away without reading. She didn't answer. Didn't respond. Just existed in Maria's apartment like a ghost, trying to figure out how to rebuild a life from the wreckage of lies. On the 4th day, her lawyer called. Mrs. Moretti, I need to inform you of something. Your husband has filed a legal objection to the divorce proceedings. On what grounds? He's claiming the marriage was never consummated. Evelyn's blood went cold. That's not true. I know, but it's a legal tactic. It will slow down the process significantly. Could take months to resolve. Why would he do that? My guess? He's buying time, hoping you'll change your mind. But there was another reason. She realized it slowly, sickeningly. If he could prove the marriage was never real, never consummated, then maybe he could argue the trust money was fraudulently obtained. Maybe he'd have to give it back. And Dante Moretti never gave anything back. Her lawyer continued. There's something else. He's also filed for spousal support. What? He's claiming you're entitled to alimony. Quite a lot of it, actually. $50,000 a month. I don't want his money. Mrs. Moretti, I'd advise, I don't want anything from him. Not money, not property, nothing. Just file the papers. Tell him I'll sign whatever he wants if he just lets me go. That's really not advisable. You're entitled. I don't care what I'm entitled to. I want out. That's all. She ended the call and sat there feeling trapped. Because even now, even knowing everything, Dante still had control, still had ways to manipulate the situation, still had power over her life that she couldn't escape. That night, she finally broke down completely, sobbed into Maria's shoulder about the unfairness of it all, about loving someone who'd never actually existed, about being married to a man who saw her as a transaction rather than a person. I hate him, she said through tears. I hate him, and I still love him, and I don't know how to make either feeling go away. You don't have to know right now. You just have to survive today. That's enough. But surviving felt impossible when her phone kept ringing, and her lawyer kept calling with new legal maneuvers, and everywhere she looked reminded her of the life she'd thought she had. A week after learning the truth, Evelyn woke up to Maria shaking her awake. You need to see this. Maria's laptop showed a news article. Manhattan crime boss arrested. And there, in grainy security footage, was Dante being led out of a building in handcuffs. What? Evelyn's voice came out hoarse. Police raided 3 of his warehouses last night. Found... Maria scrolled down. Illegal weapons. Stolen goods. Enough to charge him with racketeering. He's in federal custody. Evelyn stared at the screen. At Dante's face, carefully blank in the photograph. At the list of charges that would probably put him in prison for years. She should feel vindicated. Should feel like justice was finally catching up to him. Instead, she just felt hollow. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Evelyn Moretti? Yes? This is Frank Moretti, Dante's uncle. We need to talk. I don't have anything to say to... Your husband is in federal custody. He has 1 phone call. He's choosing to use it on you. Will you accept it? Her heart stopped. Yes or no? Yes. There was a click. Silence. Then Dante's voice, rough and exhausted. Evelyn, what do you want? Just to hear your voice, to know you're safe. I'm safe. Are you satisfied? I need you to do something for me. I'm not doing anything for you. Please, just listen. In my study, there's a safe behind the Rothko painting. Code is your birthday, and inside is a flash drive. Take it to my lawyer. Don't look at it. Don't give it to anyone else, just my lawyer. Can you do that? Why would I help you? Because if you don't, people will die. Not me. Other people. Innocent people who got caught in something they didn't ask for. You're lying, manipulating. I'm not. I swear on everything I am. That doesn't mean anything. Silence. Then quieter. I swear on what I felt for you. Real or not, calculated or genuine, whatever it was, I swear on that. People will die if that flash drive gets into the wrong hands. Evelyn closed her eyes. I hate you. I know. Will you do it anyway? She thought about saying no, about hanging up and letting whatever happened happen. But she couldn't. Even now, even knowing everything, she couldn't be responsible for innocent people dying. Fine. I'll get the flash drive. Thank you. Don't thank me. This doesn't change anything between us. I know. His voice cracked slightly. Evelyn, what? I'm sorry for all of it. For every lie. Every calculation. Every moment I made you feel like you didn't matter. I'm sorry. Too late, she said, and ended the call. The penthouse felt like a tomb when she let herself in 2 hours later. Everything exactly where they'd left it. Dante's jacket still on the chair, her book still on the coffee table. Like time had stopped the night she walked out. She went to his study, found the Rothko painting. Her birthday, October 15th, opened the safe. Inside was a flash drive, exactly like he'd said. Also inside, a letter. Handwritten. Addressed to her. Evelyn stared at it. She should just take the flash drive and leave. Shouldn't read whatever manipulative garbage he'd written. But her hands were already reaching for it, unfolding it. Evelyn, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. Probably very wrong. And I'm either dead or in custody or disappeared. I'm writing this 3 weeks after our wedding. 3 weeks of living with you and realizing I made the biggest mistake of my life. Not marrying you. That was the only right thing I've done in years. The mistake was thinking I could keep it strategic, keep my distance, protect both of us by never acknowledging what I was starting to feel. Yes, I married you for the trust money. That part's true. I found out about the inheritance, saw an opportunity, pursued it with the same cold calculation I use for everything. But somewhere between our second date and the wedding, something changed. You changed everything. You looked at me like I was human, like I could be something other than the monster everyone else sees. And that terrified me more than any enemy I've ever faced, so I pulled back. Built walls, kept you at distance even as I kept you legally bound to me, protected myself at the cost of destroying you. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to believe this is real. But I need you to know you were never just an asset, never just convenient. You became the only true thing in my life of calculated lies. And I was too broken to do anything except ruin it. I love you. I loved you 3 weeks after marrying you, and I love you now, and I'll love you even when you leave. Even when you hate me, even when you've moved on to someone who deserves you. I'm sorry I wasn't that person. The flash drive contains evidence that will bring down half of New York's crime families, including mine. Use it if you need to. Destroy it if you want. The choice is yours. Be safe. Be happy. Be everything I couldn't let myself deserve. D. The letter was dated nearly 2 years ago. 2 years he'd been carrying whatever this feeling was and never said a word. 2 years of loving her in his broken way while keeping her completely in the dark. Evelyn sank into his desk chair, letter trembling in her hands. She didn't know what to believe anymore. Didn't know what was real and what was another layer of manipulation. Didn't know if this letter was genuine vulnerability or just more strategic positioning. All she knew was that the man she loved, or thought she loved, or wished she didn't love, was in federal custody. And she was holding evidence that could either save him or destroy him. The choice was entirely hers, and she had absolutely no idea what to do with it. Evelyn sat in Dante's study holding the flash drive in one hand and the letter in the other, trying to remember how to breathe. The penthouse was completely silent except for the hum of the city below and the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. 2 years. He'd written this 2 years ago and never said a word. Her phone rang. Dante's lawyer. Mrs. Moretti, did you retrieve the item? Yes. I need you to bring it to my office immediately. There are people looking for that drive, and they're not the kind who ask nicely. What's on it? Information that could dismantle multiple criminal organizations, including your husband's, which means everyone wants it and no one can have it. Then why did he tell me where it was? A pause. Because you're the only person he trusts, which, given his line of work, should tell you something. Evelyn ended the call and stared at the flash drive. Small, unassuming, containing enough information to destroy lives, including Dante's. She should want that, should want him to pay for lying to her, using her, breaking her heart with calculated precision, should hand this over and watch his empire burn. But her hands wouldn't move, wouldn't put the drive in her pocket, wouldn't make the decision that would end him. Because despite everything, despite the lies and the manipulation and the money, some part of her still loved the man who'd written that letter, still believed maybe it was real. She was so tired of not knowing what was real. A sound from the living room made her freeze. Footsteps. Someone was in the penthouse. Mrs. Moretti? A man appeared in the study doorway. Mid-40s, expensive suit, cold eyes. She'd seen him before at various events, but couldn't remember his name. Who are you? Marcus Webb. I work with your husband. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I need that flash drive you're holding. I don't know what you're talking about. Please don't insult my intelligence. Dante called you from custody. You came here. You opened his safe, and now you're holding exactly what I need. Evelyn's grip tightened on the drive. Get out. I can't do that. That drive contains information that could ruin me, could ruin a lot of people. So I need you to hand it over, and then we can both forget this conversation ever happened. No. Marcus pulled a gun from his jacket, not dramatically, just calmly, like he was retrieving a phone. I really don't want to hurt you. Dante's already going to be furious that I'm here, but I need that drive more than I need his goodwill. Evelyn's entire body went cold. She'd lived in Dante's world for 2 years, but had never actually faced the violence that powered it. Never had someone point a gun at her while calmly explaining why they might kill her. If you shoot me, Dante will destroy you. If I don't get that drive, I'm destroyed anyway. Federal prosecutors have enough to put me away for 30 years. That flash drive is the only thing that can make this go away. So please, Mrs. Moretti, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Her mind raced. The lawyer's office was 20 minutes away. Marcus was between her and the door. Even if she ran, even if she screamed, who would come? The penthouse was soundproofed, private, designed specifically so neighbors wouldn't hear things. How did you get in here? Dante's not the only one with keys. Marcus took a step closer. I'm losing patience. Evelyn looked at the gun, at Marcus, at the flash drive in her hand. She threw it. Not at Marcus, at the window behind him. The flash drive hit the glass and bounced off. Bulletproof, of course Dante would have bulletproof windows, but the movement made Marcus turn instinctively. Evelyn ran, not toward the door, toward Dante's desk, toward the bottom drawer she'd seen him open 100 times, the one he always locked afterward. Her fingers found the lock, still open, because he'd been arrested before he could secure everything. Inside was another gun. She grabbed it and spun around just as Marcus recovered. They stood there facing each other, both armed, both terrified in different ways. You don't know how to use that, Marcus said. You want to bet your life on that? Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the weapon. She'd never fired a gun, never even held one before this moment. But Marcus didn't know that, couldn't be sure. Even if you shoot me, others will come. This doesn't end with me. Then I guess we're both in trouble. They stared at each other. Evelyn could hear her own breathing, ragged and too fast, could feel sweat running down her spine despite the penthouse's perfect climate control. Evelyn, a new voice from the doorway. She didn't dare look away from Marcus to see who it was. Evelyn, put the gun down. She recognized the voice now. Vincent Russo, another of Dante's associates, the one whose wife had been taken and returned different. I can't, she said. Yes, you can. Marcus, you too. Both of you, weapons down, now. This doesn't concern you, Vincent, Marcus said. It concerns me when you break into Dante's home and threaten his wife. Put it down or I put you down. Marcus hesitated, then slowly lowered his gun, set it on the floor. Evelyn kept hers raised. Didn't trust any of this. Didn't trust anyone. You too, sweetheart, Vincent said gently. You're safe now. How do I know that? Because if I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. I'm here because Dante called in every favor he had to make sure you were protected. So put the gun down before you accidentally shoot yourself. Evelyn's arms were aching. Her whole body was shaking. Slowly, carefully, she set the gun on the desk. Vincent moved into the study, picked up Marcus's weapon, then gestured for Marcus to leave. We'll discuss this later, in private. Marcus glanced at Evelyn one more time, then walked out. She heard the penthouse door close, heard Vincent lock it. You okay? He asked. No. Fair enough. He picked up the flash drive from where it had fallen, handed it to her. Dante said to get this to his lawyer. I'll drive you. Why are you helping me? Because Dante saved my wife when no one else would. When she was taken, he didn't calculate the politics or worry about the cost. He just got her back. So when he calls asking me to protect you, I don't ask questions. I just do it. Evelyn took the flash drive with numb fingers. He really called you? From his one phone call, used half of it on you, other half on me, asked me to make sure you were safe. That's all he cared about. Not his legal situation, not his empire falling apart. Just you. She felt tears building and forced them back. I don't know what's real anymore. Then don't try to figure it out right now. Right now, you just survive. Come on. Vincent's car was armored. Tinted windows. The kind of vehicle designed to survive situations Evelyn didn't want to imagine. They drove through Manhattan in silence until he pulled up outside a nondescript office building. 4th floor, suite 403. Tell them Vincent sent you. Aren't you coming? Can't. I've got other problems to handle. But you'll be safe here. She climbed out and watched him drive away, then turned toward the building. Her legs felt unsteady. Everything felt unsteady. The lawyer's office was exactly what she expected. Expensive, discreet, full of people who looked like they specialized in making problems disappear. A woman met her at the door. Mrs. Moretti? Yes. This way. She was led into a conference room where 2 men waited. One she recognized, Dante's lawyer, Thomas Chen. The other was unfamiliar. Mrs. Moretti, thank you for coming. This is Agent David Morrison, FBI. Evelyn froze. FBI. Don't worry, Morrison said. I'm not here to arrest you. I'm here because that flash drive you're holding could help us take down some very dangerous people. People who've been operating with impunity for years. I was told to give it to the lawyer. And you should, but I wanted you to understand what it contains first, what it means. Chen gestured to a chair. Evelyn sat, still clutching the flash drive. Morrison opened a laptop and pulled up files. Your husband has been documenting criminal activity for the past 5 years. Names, dates, transactions. Enough evidence to prosecute dozens of major players in organized crime, including people in law enforcement, in government, in places you wouldn't expect. Why would he do that? Insurance, leverage, maybe conscience. With men like Dante, motivations get complicated. But the point is, this information could change everything, could clean up corruption that's been poisoning this city for decades. Or it could get a lot of people killed, Chen added quietly. Morrison shot him a look. You can't protect everyone. You know that. Once this information goes public, there will be retaliation. Blood in the streets. And Evelyn will be a primary target because everyone will assume she has more. So what are you asking me to do? Evelyn's voice came out hoarse. Morrison leaned forward. Give us the drive. Let us use it to build cases. We'll put you in witness protection, new identity, new life, completely safe. And Dante? He's already in custody. The charges will likely stick regardless. But with this evidence, we can offer him a deal. Reduce sentence in exchange for testimony. Evelyn looked at the flash drive in her hand. Such a small thing to contain so much destruction. And if I don't give it to you? Then nothing changes. Corrupt people stay in power, criminals keep operating, and your husband spends the next 20 years in federal prison. But I'd be safe. For now. But Marcus Webb isn't the only one looking for that drive. Eventually someone will find you, and they won't ask as nicely as he did. She thought about the gun pointed at her less than an hour ago, about Marcus's cold eyes, about all the violence lurking just beneath the surface of Dante's world. I need to think about this. Mrs. Moretti, we don't have time. I said I need to think. Chen stood. Give us the room, Agent Morrison. Morrison looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Chen's expression stopped him. He left. Once the door closed, Chen sat down across from Evelyn. What do you want? He asked quietly. What? Not what you think you should want. Not what's strategic or safe or right. What do you actually want? Evelyn stared at the flash drive. I want to not be married to a man who lies to me. I want to not love someone who used me. I want to go back to before any of this happened and make different choices. But you can't. So given what's actually possible, what do you want? I want to talk to him, to Dante, face to face, without lawyers or FBI agents or guards, just us. And I want him to tell me the truth, the real truth, not the strategic version, not what he thinks I need to hear, just what's actually real. Chen studied her for a long moment. That's going to be complicated to arrange. I don't care, that's what I want. And if he tells you the truth, and you don't like what you hear, then I give you the flash drive and disappear into witness protection. But I need to hear it from him first. I need to look him in the eye and know, finally, what was real and what was performance. Chen nodded slowly. I'll see what I can do. It took 3 days. 3 days of staying in a safe house Chen arranged. 3 days of eating takeout and staring at walls and trying not to think about guns or lies or flash drives containing enough evidence to destroy lives. On the 3rd day, Chen called. I got you 15 minutes. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. Federal Detention Center. It's the best I could do. That's enough. The detention center was exactly as depressing as she'd imagined. Gray walls, fluorescent lights, the smell of industrial cleaning products trying to mask other smells underneath. They made her go through security, took her phone, her bag, everything except the clothes she wore. Then they led her to a small room with a table bolted to the floor and cameras in every corner. 15 minutes, the guard said, starting when he enters. She waited, heart pounding, palms sweating, trying to prepare for seeing him and knowing no preparation would be enough. The door opened. Dante looked terrible. Prison jumpsuit instead of expensive suits. Dark circles under his eyes. 3 days of stubble. Everything about him screamed exhaustion and defeat. But his eyes, when they met hers, were absolutely alive. Evelyn? Sit down. He sat across from her, hands folded on the table, close enough to touch, but separated by so much more than just space. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. I didn't come for you. I came for me. Because I need answers before I decide what to do with your flash drive. Something flickered across his face. You still have it? Chen has it, but the choice of what happens to it is mine. So talk. You have 15 minutes to tell me the truth about everything. And Dante, I'll know if you're lying. I've spent 2 years learning to read between your words, so don't waste our time with strategy, just truth. He took a breath, let it out slowly. Where do you want me to start? The beginning, the trust. Why you really married me. I married you for the money. That part you know. My organization needed capital to expand into legitimate businesses. 30 million was exactly what we needed. When I found out about your grandfather's trust and its conditions, I saw an opportunity. So you researched me? Yes. Found out where you worked, what coffee shop you went to, what you liked. Engineered a meeting that seemed accidental. Pursued you with the same calculation I use for everything. The words hurt even though she'd already known them. Hearing him confirm it was different than just suspecting. When did it change? She asked. Or did it ever actually change? Our 4th date. You took me to that Italian place in Brooklyn, the one with checked tablecloths and terrible wine. And you talked about your grandfather, about how he taught you that money didn't matter as much as being true to yourself, about how you'd rather be poor and honest than rich and compromised. He smiled slightly, and I realized I was about to marry you specifically because you had money, and I had no intention of being honest about any of it. But you married me anyway. Yes. Because I'm a coward. Because I convinced myself you'd be better off not knowing, that what you didn't know couldn't hurt you. Except it did hurt me. Every single day. I know, I saw it happening and couldn't stop myself from causing it. Couldn't figure out how to be honest without losing everything. So I just kept lying, kept building walls, kept telling myself it was protection when really it was just fear. Evelyn's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table. The letter in the safe. Was that real? Every word. You wrote it 2 years ago. 3 weeks after our wedding. After you'd been living in the penthouse for less than a month and I already couldn't imagine it without you in it. Then why didn't you tell me? Why wait until now when everything's destroyed? Dante's jaw worked. She could see him fighting for control, fighting against emotions he'd spent a lifetime suppressing. Because I'm broken, he said, finally. Because my father taught me that love was weakness and vulnerability was death. Because everyone I've ever cared about has either betrayed me or died. Because I didn't know how to be the kind of man who could love you without destroying you in the process. So you destroyed me anyway? Yes. His voice cracked. Yes, I did. And I'm so sorry. For all of it. For every lie. Every wall. Every moment I made you feel invisible. You deserve so much better than what I gave you. Tears were running down Evelyn's face now. She didn't bother wiping them away. Do you actually love me? Or is that just another convenient story? Dante reached across the table slowly, stopped just before touching her hand, waiting for permission. She didn't pull away. His fingers closed around hers. Warm, solid, real. I love you so much it terrifies me, he said quietly. I love you so much I sabotaged our entire marriage rather than risk you seeing how desperately I need you. I love you so much that when Marcus Webb pulled a gun on you, I would have burned down the entire federal government to get out of this cell and protect you myself. Vincent told me you used your phone call on me. Half on you, half on him, because keeping you safe mattered more than my legal defense, more than my freedom, more than anything. That's stupid. I know. You're facing 20 years in prison. I know. And you're more worried about me than about yourself. Yes. Evelyn stared at their joined hands, at the way his thumb was rubbing gentle circles against her palm. Such a small gesture, such an enormous admission. The flash drive could get you out, she said. Morrison said they'd offer a deal. Reduced sentence for testimony. Don't give it to them? What? Don't give them the drive. If you do, people will die, not just criminals. Innocent people caught in the crossfire, families of people I documented, kids who don't deserve to pay for their parents' choices. But you'll go to prison. I've done things that deserve prison, things I'm not proud of, things I can't take back. Maybe this is justice finally catching up. Dante, But you're innocent. You didn't choose this life. Didn't sign up for the violence or the lies or any of it. So whatever you do with that drive, do it for yourself. Not for me. Not because you think you owe me something. Just choose the life you actually want. The guard knocked on the door. 2 minutes. Evelyn's grip tightened on Dante's hand. I don't know what I want. Then figure it out. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. That's not funny. Wasn't trying to be funny. He smiled slightly. Just honest. She laughed despite everything. Despite the tears and the pain and the absolute wreckage of their marriage. I hate you, she whispered. I know. I hate that I still love you. I know that too. 1 minute, the guard called. Evelyn stood. Dante stood with her, still holding her hand. Whatever you decide, Yistan, he said. Thank you for coming, for giving me a chance to tell you the truth, for his voice broke, for being the only real thing in my life of calculated lies. She pulled her hand free, walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. If I use the flash drive to get you out, what happens to us? What do you want to happen? I asked first. Dante looked at her with absolute honesty in his eyes. I want to start over. No lies. No walls. No protection strategies. Just two people figuring out if they can actually build something real together, but only if that's what you want. Only if you can forgive what I did. And I won't blame you if you can't. Time's up, the guard said, opening the door. Evelyn walked out without answering, left Dante standing in that gray room, watching her leave with an expression that looked like hope and heartbreak combined. She made it to the parking lot before she started crying, sat in Chen's car and sobbed until her entire body hurt, until there was nothing left except exhausted emptiness. Her phone buzzed. Chen, have you decided what you want to do with the drive? She stared at the message for a long time, thought about Dante in that cell, about Marcus and his gun, about innocent families caught in crossfire, about the life she'd thought she wanted versus the life she actually had, about love that was real but broken, about trust that was shattered but maybe, possibly, could be rebuilt. She typed back slowly. I need one more day. Or, that night, back in the safe house, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the conversation with Dante, his words, his expression, the way he'd looked at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Was it real? Could she believe any of it? Around 2 in the morning, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Mrs. Moretti, this is Serena Laurent. Evelyn's entire body went cold. How did you get this number? That doesn't matter. What matters is that I need to tell you something about the documents I showed you. I don't want to hear, they were fake. Silence. What? The documents. The ones showing Dante married you for the trust. They were fabricated. Serena's voice cracked. I wanted you to leave him. I thought if you believed he'd used you, you'd walk away and maybe he'd finally turn to me. So I created fake evidence, hired someone to doctor the dates, made it look like he'd known about the trust before he met you. Evelyn couldn't breathe. You're lying. I wish I was, but I just found out he's in federal custody, and I can't let you make decisions based on lies, I told. The truth is, Dante didn't know about your trust until after you were engaged. I checked. The real timeline doesn't match what I showed you. He married you before he knew about the money. The room was spinning. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm not a monster. I loved him, still love him, and I made terrible choices because of it. But you deserve to know the truth before you decide what to do. The call ended. Evelyn sat there in the dark, trying to process what she'd just heard. If Serena was telling the truth, if the documents were fake, then Dante hadn't married her for money. He'd chosen her before knowing about the inheritance, which meant everything he'd said today was real, which meant their entire marriage had been destroyed by lies, but not the lies she'd thought. She grabbed her laptop and started searching, found her grandfather's will, the trust documents, the actual legal timeline. Serena was right. The dates didn't match what she'd been shown. The trust had been established after Dante proposed, not before. He'd chosen her first, and she'd left him thinking he'd only wanted her money. Evelyn called Chen immediately. It's 3 in the morning, he answered groggily. I know, I need to see Dante tomorrow, first thing. What changed? Everything. The documents Serena showed me were fake. Dante didn't know about the trust when he married me. Silence. Chen? Are you there? I'm here. I'm just... Evelyn, I need to tell you something. Dante knew those documents were fake. What? Serena sent him copies before she showed them to you. He knew exactly what she was planning, knew she was going to try to turn you against him. Then why didn't he tell me? Because he thought you deserved to leave him. Thought maybe she was right that you'd be better off without him. So he let you believe the worst because it gave you permission to go. Evelyn felt like the ground was disappearing beneath her. He let me think he'd used me. Let me hate him. Let me file for divorce because he thought I deserved better. That's what he does. Destroys himself to protect people he loves. It's his fatal flaw. She ended the call and just sat there, trying to understand. Dante had known the truth, had let her leave anyway, had sat in that detention center today and let her accuse him of things he hadn't actually done because he thought it would set her free. That's not strategy. That's not manipulation. That's just broken love from a broken man who didn't know any other way. Evelyn grabbed the flash drive from where she'd hidden it, stared at it in her palm. Then she made her decision. The next morning, she walked into FBI headquarters with the flash drive in her purse and a plan she hadn't told anyone. Morrison met her in the lobby. Mrs. Moretti, have you made a decision? Yes, but I have conditions. I'm listening. You use this to build cases against everyone except Dante. You give him full immunity, and you help me disappear. I can't promise. Then I destroy the drive right now. Those are my terms. Morrison studied her face, saw absolute determination there. Why would you want to disappear if we're offering Dante immunity? Because I need him to think I'm gone. Need him to believe I took your witness protection deal and started over somewhere he can't find me. Can you do that? Why? Because if people think I'm under FBI protection, they won't come after me. And if Dante thinks I'm safe and far away, he'll stop trying to control the situation. He'll actually accept the immunity deal instead of trying to sacrifice himself. Can you do it or not? Morrison exchanged a glance with his partner. We can do it, but it's going to be complicated. Everything with him is complicated. Just make it happen. 3 days later, the news broke. Massive federal operation. Dozens of arrests. Corruption charges reaching into government and law enforcement. And business. And buried in the coverage, Dante Moretti granted immunity in exchange for testimony. His wife entered witness protection. Evelyn watched the news from Chen's office, then looked at the lawyer. How long until he figures out I'm not actually in witness protection? Knowing Dante? A week, maybe less. Good. That gives me time. Time for what? To rebuild the life he destroyed, and then decide if I want him in it. Chen smiled slightly. You're more like him than you realize. Don't say that. It's a compliment. You both destroy yourselves trying to protect each other. It's twisted, but it's real. Evelyn stood, grabbed her bag. Tell him, when he figures it out, tell him I'm somewhere safe, somewhere he can't find me until I'm ready. And when will that be? When I know if I can actually trust him. If we can build something real instead of just beautiful destruction. She walked out of Chen's office and into the November cold, leaving behind the flash drive and the lies and the life she'd thought she wanted. Somewhere in a federal building, Dante Moretti was signing immunity papers and trying to figure out how to live with the fact that the woman he loved had chosen safety over him. He had no idea she was 3 blocks away, watching from a coffee shop window, trying to decide if love was worth the risk of more heartbreak. The answer should have been simple, but nothing between them had ever been simple. And somehow, that felt exactly right. Evelyn spent the first week pretending she was someone else. Checked into a small hotel in Brooklyn under a name that wasn't hers. Cut her hair short in a bathroom with scissors from a drugstore. Wore clothes from thrift stores instead of designer boutiques. Walked streets she'd never been on. Ate at diners where nobody knew her face. Sat in parks watching people live normal lives. She was learning how to be invisible. Learning how to exist without the weight of being Dante Moretti's wife pressing down on every breath. It should have felt like freedom. Instead, it just felt lonely. Maria called every day. Evelyn answered once every 3 days just to prove she was alive. The conversations were short, careful. Maria knew better than to ask where she was or what she was planning. On day 8, Chen called. He knows. Evelyn's heart kicked against her ribs. How? Because he's Dante. He had people checking. Found out the FBI's witness protection story didn't match their usual protocols. Figured out you never actually entered the program. Now he's looking for you. Has he found me? Not yet, but he will. He always does. Then I need to move faster. She hung up and stared at her reflection in the hotel mirror. Short dark hair, no makeup, cheap jacket. She looked like a stranger. Felt like one, too. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know you're not in witness protection. I know you're somewhere in the city, and I know you're not ready to see me yet, so I'll wait. But please, just tell me you're safe. D. Evelyn's hands shook. She typed back slowly. I'm safe. 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared, appeared again. Thank you. I won't look for you, I promise. But when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. She set the phone down and tried to remember how to breathe. He'd promised not to look for her. Dante Moretti, who controlled everything through information and surveillance and strategic positioning, was promising to just wait. That should have made her feel better. Instead, it made everything harder.
Bunchas Kunz.
Because part of her, the stupid, broken part that still loved him, wanted him to find her. Wanted him to show up and fight for her instead of just waiting patiently like she was a problem he could solve through restraint. But that wasn't fair. She'd asked for space, for time, for a chance to figure out who she was without him, and he was giving her exactly that, even though it was probably killing him. 2 weeks after leaving Chen's office, Evelyn walked into a small publishing house in the village, applied for an assistant position, used her real name, her real credentials, everything honest. They called her back 3 days later. We'd like to offer you the position. When can you start? Monday. She got a tiny apartment in Queens, 1 bedroom, ancient radiator that clanked at night, view of a brick wall. It cost less per month than one of the designer dresses hanging in her closet at the penthouse. It was perfect. She started work, made coffee for editors, read slush pile manuscripts, learned the business from the ground up instead of from the top down. Nobody cared who she was or who she'd been married to. They just cared whether she could proofread and show up on time. For the first time in years, Evelyn felt like herself. But at night, alone in her apartment with the radiator clanking and the city humming outside, she thought about Dante, wondered what he was doing, whether he was keeping his promise, whether he was suffering as much as she was. A month after starting her new job, she ran into Vincent Russo at a coffee shop. He looked at her. She looked at him. Neither spoke for a long moment. Finally, he said, "You look good." "Thank you. Different, but good." "How is he?" Vincent's expression shifted. "Miserable, but functional. He's rebuilding, focusing on the legitimate businesses, staying out of trouble. Mostly." "Mostly?" "He got in a fight last week. Some guy at a bar made a comment about his wife leaving him. Dante put him through a table." Despite everything, Evelyn almost smiled. "Is he okay?" "Physically? Fine. Everything else?" Vincent shrugged. "He misses you. Won't say it, but it's written all over him. I miss him too." "Then why are you still hiding?" "I'm not hiding. I'm healing. There's a difference." Vincent nodded slowly. "Fair enough. You need anything?" "No, I'm good." "He asks me about you. Every time I see him, whether you're safe, whether you're happy, I tell him you're both. Is that true?" Evelyn thought about her tiny apartment and her assistant job and her life that didn't involve bodyguards or political dinners or any of the beautiful violence of Dante's world. "I'm safe. Happy. I'm working on it." "Good. That's good." Vincent stood. "For what it's worth, I've known Dante 15 years. Never seen him love anything except power and control. Until you. You broke something in him, changed something. Don't know if that's good or bad, but it's real." He left before she could respond. Evelyn sat there with her coffee going cold, trying to process what he'd said, trying to figure out what she wanted it to mean. That night, she pulled out the letter Dante had written 2 years ago, the one she'd found in his safe. Read it again in the dim light of her apartment. "You became the only true thing in my life of calculated lies." She'd read those words 100 times, still didn't know if she believed them. Or maybe she did believe them. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe loving him wasn't the question anymore. Maybe the question was whether love was enough to rebuild what had been destroyed. 3 months after leaving, Evelyn made a decision. She called Chen. I want to see him. When? Tomorrow. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere we can actually talk. I'll set it up. The meeting was arranged for a small art gallery in Soho, closed to the public for a private showing that didn't exist. Just empty rooms and expensive paintings and enough space to breathe. Evelyn arrived early, wore jeans and a sweater instead of designer clothes, hair still short, face bare, everything honest. She was staring at a painting she didn't understand when she heard footsteps behind her. Evelyn. She turned. Dante looked different, thinner, tired, but his eyes, when they met hers, were absolutely alive, desperate, terrified, hopeful. Hi, she said. Hi. He stayed where he was, 10 feet away, like closing the distance required permission he didn't have. You look different. I cut my hair. I like it. You're lying. No, I'm really not. You look... He stopped. Started again. You look like yourself. Like the woman I met 3 years ago before I convinced you to become someone else. I became that person on my own. No. You became that person because I needed you to be her, and I'm sorry for all of it. They stood there in the empty gallery, surrounded by art. Neither of them was looking at, trying to figure out how to start. Chen said you've been staying out of trouble, Evelyn finally said. Mostly. Mostly? There was an incident at a bar, but in my defense, he deserved it. Vincent told me. Of course he did. Dante smiled slightly. How are you? Really? She searched for the right word. I'm okay. I have a job, an apartment, a life that's mine. That's good. I'm glad. Are you? Really? Or are you just saying what you think I want to hear? I'm devastated that you're not with me, but I'm genuinely glad you're building something for yourself. Both things can be true. Evelyn walked closer, not all the way, just close enough to see his face clearly, to read the truth in his expression. I talked to Serena, she said. Dante went very still. When? The night before I gave the FBI the flash drive. She told me the documents were fake, that you didn't marry me for the trust. I know, Chen told me. Why didn't you tell me yourself? When I accused you in the detention center, why didn't you defend yourself? Because you deserved to believe the worst of me, deserved permission to leave without guilt. I'd already destroyed you with my lies. Didn't want to trap you with the truth. That's not your decision to make. I know, but I made it anyway, because that's what I do. I make decisions for other people and call it protection, when really it's just control. He dragged his hand through his hair. I'm trying to be different, trying to let go. But it's hard when every instinct I have screams to fix things, to manage the situation, to make sure you're safe, even if it means lying to you again. I don't need you to fix things. I need you to be honest with me. I know, so here's honest. I miss you so much I can barely function. I wake up looking for you. Come home to an empty penthouse that feels like a tomb. Sit in rooms we used to share and try to remember what your voice sounds like. And it's destroying me. But I won't ask you to come back. Won't pressure you or manipulate you or do any of the things I'm good at, because you deserve to make that choice freely, without my influence. Evelyn felt tears building. What if I don't know what I want? Then take more time. Take years if you need to. I'll wait. That's not fair to you? I don't care about fair. I care about you being happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me. She moved closer, close enough to touch, close enough to see the exhaustion in his eyes, the pain he was trying to hide. I read your letter again, she said quietly, the one from 2 years ago. You said I was the only true thing in your life of calculated lies. I meant it, still mean it, even though I left, especially because you left. Because walking away from me, from the money and the power and everything I could give you that proved you were real, that you weren't staying out of convenience or fear or strategy, you were just, his voice cracked, you were just done, and I deserved that. Yes, you did. So what happens now? Evelyn reached up slowly, touched his face, felt him go absolutely still under her hand. Now we figure out if we can start over. Actually, over. No lies, no walls, no protection strategies, just two broken people trying to build something real. Is that what you want? I don't know yet, but I think I want to try. If you can handle me being honest, being angry, being someone who pushes back instead of just accepting whatever you decide, I can handle it. Can you? Really? Because I'm not going back to being the perfect mafia wife. I'm not going to fix your ties or wait up at night or pretend I don't notice when you're shutting me out. If we do this, I need partnership, actual partnership, not you making decisions and me following along. Okay? That's it? Just okay? What else do you want me to say? You're right. You've always been right. I treated you like an accessory instead of a partner, made decisions without consulting you, built walls instead of bridges, and it destroyed us. So yes, okay. Partnership. Honesty. Whatever it takes to not lose you again. Evelyn studied his face, looking for calculation, for strategy, for any sign he was performing instead of being real. She found nothing but exhausted honesty. I'm keeping my apartment, she said, and my job. I'm not moving back into the penthouse and pretending the past few months didn't happen. Okay. And we're going to therapy. Real therapy. Not some society therapist who cares more about discretion than actually helping. Someone who will call you on your bullshit and make us do the work. Okay. And if you lie to me, if you keep even one secret because you think I can't handle it, we're done. Permanently. No second chances. No more chances at all. I understand. Do you? Because this is it, Dante. This is the last time I put myself through this. The last time I choose you. So if you're going to break my heart again, tell me now. Save us both the pain. He cupped her face in both hands, looked at her with absolute clarity. I love you. I have loved you since 3 weeks after our wedding, when I realized you were the only person who'd ever looked at me and seen something worth loving. I will love you even if you leave again. Even if you decide this is impossible. Even if you spend the rest of your life hating me for what I did. That's the truth. The only truth that matters. Evelyn felt tears spilling over. I hate that I believe you. Why? Because it makes everything harder. It would be easier if you were just a monster, just a manipulative bastard I could walk away from. But you're... She stopped. Tried again. You're a broken man who loves me in the only way he knows how. And that's so much more complicated. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing and kiss me. He did. Soft at first, careful, like she might break or disappear, then deeper when she kissed him back. Desperate and honest and tasting like salt from tears, neither of them could stop. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Evelyn rested her forehead against his. This is going to be hard, she whispered. I know. We're going to fight, really fight, and I'm going to be angry at you for a long time. I know. And you're going to have to actually change. Not just promise to change. Actually do it. I will. I promise. Don't promise. Just do it. They stood there in the empty gallery holding each other. Two people who'd destroyed everything trying to figure out if anything could be rebuilt from the wreckage. It wasn't fixed, not even close. But maybe, just maybe, it was a beginning. The next 6 months were brutal. Therapy twice a week where a no-nonsense therapist named Dr. Sarah Martinez called them both on every defense mechanism and calculated move. Fights that got loud and raw and sometimes ended with Evelyn leaving for her apartment and not answering calls for days. Moments where Dante slipped back into old patterns and Evelyn had to decide whether to walk away or push through. But there were good moments too. Quiet dinners where they actually talked instead of performing. Nights when Dante showed up at her tiny apartment with takeout and helped her read manuscript submissions. Mornings when she woke up in the penthouse and didn't feel like a ghost haunting someone else's life. Slowly, painfully, they learned how to be honest with each other, how to fight without destroying, how to love without controlling. It wasn't easy. Some days it felt impossible, but they kept trying. 8 months after their meeting in the gallery, Dante showed up at Evelyn's apartment with a small box. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it." Inside was a ring, not the massive diamond his advisors had chosen for their wedding, the simple one she'd loved before they made her change it, the one she'd worn for exactly 2 days before it disappeared. I kept it, Dante said quietly. Couldn't bring myself to get rid of it. And I thought, if you were willing, maybe we could start over. Actually over. New vows, new promises, new everything. Evelyn stared at the ring. Are you asking me to marry you again? I'm asking if you'd consider it. Someday. When we're ready. When we've done the work. When you trust that I won't destroy us again. And if I say no, then I keep trying. Keep earning your trust. Keep proving I can be the partner you deserve. She took the ring from the box, slipped it on her finger. It fit perfectly. Always had. Ask me again in 6 months, she said. If we make it that far without killing each other, I'll give you an answer. Dante smiled. Actually smiled. That's fair. And Dante? Yeah? Stop trying to control the outcome. Let it be uncertain. Let us be uncertain. That's what real is. I'm learning. Keep learning. He pulled her close, and she let him. Let herself trust that maybe, possibly, they could actually make this work. They made it 6 months, then a year, then 2. The fights got less frequent. The honesty got easier. The trust rebuilt itself slowly, in tiny moments that added up to something solid. Evelyn never moved back into the penthouse full-time, kept her apartment, kept her job, kept her independence. And Dante learned to let her, learned to love her without controlling her, learned to be vulnerable without seeing it as weakness. It wasn't perfect. They still fought, still struggled, still had moments where old patterns tried to reassert themselves. But they kept choosing each other anyway. 3 years after Evelyn almost boarded a plane to Boston, they got married again. Small ceremony, just close friends, no political guests, no strategic alliances, just 2 people making promises they actually intended to keep. Maria stood as Evelyn's witness. Vincent stood as Dante's. The judge who married them didn't care about their complicated history, just asked if they promised to love and honor each other. They both said yes. This time, they meant it. After the ceremony, Dante took Evelyn to the same Italian restaurant in Brooklyn where he'd realized he was falling in love with her. The one with checkered tablecloths and terrible wine, where she'd talked about her grandfather and being true to yourself. They sat at the same corner table, ordered the same dishes, drank the same bad wine. You know what I realized? Evelyn said, halfway through her mediocre pasta. What? That night at the gala, when I heard you say I'd never be your real wife, I wasn't wrong about what you meant. I just didn't understand why you meant it. What do you mean? You said I'd never be the perfect Mafia wife they wanted, never be the strategic alliance, never be convenient. And you were right. I'm not any of those things. I'm just me, complicated and difficult and demanding. And perfect, Dante added quietly. Not perfect. Real. Real is better than perfect. They finished dinner slowly. No rush, no phones, just conversation about everything and nothing. About her latest manuscript project, about his transition into legitimate business, about the life they were building that didn't require lies or strategy. Walking home through Brooklyn streets, hand in hand, Evelyn felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because everything was fixed, not because their past was erased, but because they'd done the work, earned the trust, chose each other with full knowledge of exactly how broken they both were. I love you, she said suddenly. Dante stopped walking, looked at her with surprise and something deeper. I love you too. I know. But I needed to say it, needed you to hear it without anger or fear or any of the other things that used to poison it. Just, I love you. You're still damaged and controlling and sometimes impossible, but I love you anyway. You're still stubborn and demanding and won't let me get away with anything, and I love you for it. They kissed there on the sidewalk while Brooklyn hummed around them. Just 2 people who'd destroyed everything learning how to build something real. It wasn't the fairy tale ending. Wasn't smooth or perfect or easy, but it was theirs. Honest and hard-won and absolutely real. And somehow that made it better than any fairy tale could have been. Years later, Evelyn would look back on the night of the gala as the moment everything ended, but also as the moment everything began. Because sometimes the coldest men only learn how to love after nearly losing the one person willing to see the heart hidden beneath the monster. And sometimes the strongest women only learn their worth after refusing to accept anything less than the truth. Their story wasn't about a mafia boss and his useful wife. It was about two broken people learning that love without honesty is just pretty lies, and that building something real requires destroying everything false first, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Evelyn never went to Boston, never needed to, because she found what she'd been looking for all along, not in a different city or a different life, but in finally demanding the truth from a man who'd spent his whole life avoiding it. And Dante Moretti, the most feared man in New York, learned that true power wasn't control. It was vulnerability. It was choosing to be seen. It was loving someone enough to let them see all your broken pieces and trusting they'd stay anyway. They built a life together, messy and complicated and sometimes still difficult. He still worked too much. She still pushed back hard. They still fought about control and honesty, and whether he was really listening or just strategizing. But they also laughed, traveled, built a charitable foundation in Evelyn's grandfather's name that actually helped people instead of just looking good on paper. Dante stepped back from the darker parts of his business. Evelyn published her first novel, a crime thriller about complicated love and impossible choices that became a bestseller. They never had perfect, but they had real. And in the end, that was everything. On their 5th wedding anniversary, the second one, the real one, they went back to that terrace where Dante had placed his coat around Evelyn's shoulders without knowing he'd just shattered her world. The gala space was empty now, closed for renovations. But they stood there anyway, looking out at Manhattan glittering below. "Do you ever think about that night?" Evelyn asked. "Every day." "Regret it?" "Regret breaking you? Yes. Regret it leading us here?" "No." She leaned against him, felt his arms come around her, solid, safe, real. "I used to think marriage was supposed to protect me from chaos," she said quietly. "Turns out, it just taught me how to survive it." "Did I teach you that?" "We taught each other." They stood there as the city hummed below, two people who'd learned the hard way that love isn't about protection or perfection. It's about choosing to be honest even when it destroys everything. It's about rebuilding from wreckage. It's about two imperfect people deciding that broken together is better than whole apart. Evelyn thought marrying a mafia boss would protect her from the chaos of the world. Instead, it slowly broke her heart. But somewhere in all that breaking, she learned how to demand the truth, how to walk away, how to choose herself. And when she finally came back, it was on her terms, with her eyes open, with full knowledge of exactly who Dante Moretti was beneath the power and control. A broken man learning how to love, just like she was a broken woman learning how to trust. They weren't a fairy tale. They were just real. And real, it turned out, was worth fighting for, even when the fight almost destroyed them both.